Shivaya. Oh, we're live. Om Namo Shivaya.
I stayed up till midnight and the dugging went till 11.
This book is good, right? Today?
Yes.
Okay.
If that's the one in transliteration, it's even better.
Oh, wonderful.
So I'm trying to find. Yeah, sure. Om Pataya Pratibodhitam Bhagavatam Dhyana Bhishtaste. No, we all forgotten it, huh? Pratitam Puran.
I don't hum it. Madhye Mahabharatam
Advaitam Prithavarshinim Bhagavatim
Ashtadashadhyayinim
Amba Tvamanusandadami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim. Okay, wait. Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindayata Putra Nedra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pradipa Prapanna Parijataya Totraika Parnaye
Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya
Gitamrituhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavaha Dokha Gopalanandanaha Parto Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Tudtam Gitam Ritam Mahat Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsacharya
Ramardanam
Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishma Drona Tata Jayadrata Jala Gandhara Nilotpala Shalya Gravati Kripena Vahani Karnena Vela Kula Ashvatthama Vikarna Kaivartaka Keshavah Parasarya Vachasarojamamalam Gītātagandhokartam Nanakyanaka Kesaram Harikatha Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shatpadairaharaha Epiyamanam Buddha Bhuyat Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pratwamsina Shreyase Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Varuda Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidusura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Yasyantam Navidusura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Verse 38, second chapter, I think. Sukha dukhe same kritva
Sukha dukhe same kritva
Labha labhau jaya jayau
Labha labhau jaya jayau
Tato yuddhaya yujyasva
Tato yuddhaya yujyasva
Naivam papamavapsyasi
Naivam papamavapsyasi
Esha te bhihita sankhye
Esha te vihita sankhye
Buddhir yoge tvimam shrinu
Buddhir yoge tvimam shrinu
Buddhya yukto yaya partha
Buddhya yukto yaya partha
Karma bandham prahasyasi
Karma bandham prahasyasi
we saw that from 38, this whole section that we have been doing, last time I gave a little synopsis of how it's going to go, all the blocks of what's going to happen in the future for this chapter. And starting with 31, there is a slight change in the discussion, because from verse 31 he starts to talk about not just the vision, because from the standpoint of the vision, you are the whole. What is there to do? Nothing. Where is there to go? Nowhere. Okay? And then is there Mahabharata war? No. How can there be a war if you have nothing to do? Correct? So that is at the level of what is called Paramarthika Drishtya. From the standpoint of the vision, all there is you. Correct? Yeah. But the whole time this fellow is shaking his head. Who? Arjuna. But why is it not mentioned here? You're supposed to use your creativity and imagination, because otherwise you don't know that he is, otherwise why will he keep on going on, right? Otherwise Krishna would have stopped. He would have said Tathastu, okay, wonderful. But he is going on and on because this fellow is having resistance. So from 31 to 38 is a special package for the inner child. Really, the inner child is being talked to. I spoke about that last time. Because you see, even sometimes in verse 38 itself, the first line, Sukha Dukkhau Same Kritva, Labha Labhau Jaya Jayo, that is for Arjuna. Tato Yuddhaya Yujyasva, Naivam Papam Avapsyasi, otherwise there will be consequences. Oh, consequences are nice. No, Papa. Papa is never nice. Yeah. So, this was told to whom? Not to Arjuna. Arjuna means the witness. Correct? Not to Arjuna, the witness, but to who? The raging ahankara, the inner child full of resistance. So, verses 31 to 38 are what is called, which closes with number 39, it's what is called Ragadvesha psychology in the Bhagavad Gita. And if you think that Ragadveshas are a problem now, and the ancestors were very happy because they had no electricity, and so they were not addicted to iPad and what else, what is that? Cell phones. They were not addicted, and they didn't think of which movies to go and see, and they didn't have all these things. There were no restaurants, so there was no question of going out to eat various cuisines. Yeah, one day you had rice and dal, next day you had dal and rice. So in this, and then the whole time they are doing yajnas. You saw today one yajna to do, were finished. So you have to get into the horizontal position immediately because it's just so it is so labor intensive. Yesterday how many hours you worked to set it up? 5-6 hours set up, and maybe 3-4 hours take down, and then what? You are taken down. So this, they do every day. So then what Ragadveshas? They will not have Ragadveshas, but no. Because the human psychology, it does not change. It may morph into various things. That's different. But human psychology means it's an order. It's a law. Correct? It's the law. And the law of how the minds function. How all the minds function. That does not change because it is Bhagavan's law. And, so this doesn't change at all. Because before people had insecurity, yes or no? Yes. Even now people have insecurity. The only difference is now we have many, many ways to show up and feel, more insecure. Even though we want to feel less insecure, the more things we have, then you have to guard those things and all these, headaches. then, in those days, then means in those days, there was still that insecurity, but they had different ways of making themselves feel secure. Like, for example, they were, what is that? They were into having children. So child mortality was a lot. So if you had 3-4 children, and then it could be that all of them just die because, the medicine is not there and so many things are not there. And so they would have a lot of children. This is true the world over. In ancient times, they would have a lot of children because that was their asset. So if they had a lot of children, even if half of them died, there would be another half that would be alive. So this was, this was their asset. And so, in other words, the raga dvesha, meaning the strong likes and dislikes, the being part of the human psyche has not changed a single bit, whether it is in Krishna's time, whether it is in, Satya Yuga or Treta Yuga. Krishna's time is called Dwapara Yuga. It has not changed a single bit. People were insecure then, they are insecure now. This is how it is. So therefore what? So therefore the Raga Dvesha psychology, the psychology of nurturing strong desires. I shouldn't even call them desires. Nothing wrong with desires. Strong preferences, that's a better term. So I edit myself here. So the psychology of nurturing strong preferences is always fraught with unhappiness. This is what is being talked about. So verses 31 to 38, we've discussed this before, but since we haven't met for some time, I thought I will just, give a little segue from last time. So verses 31 to 38 of which chapter? Ah, very good. So impressed. So, no, I'm so happy, really. So, chapter 2, verses 31 to 38 are building up the case for doing one's duty. Because there is the duty, that one does, the duty in the sense of following dharma, what is right and wrong, and then that includes samanya and vishesha. Vishesha means? What is vishesha dharma? Applied dharma. Applied, that what is wrong and right is applied to various situations and how it looks when it's applied. And then finally, this 31 to 38 is talking about one's own purpose. You are not dropped in here like a bomb without any reason just to explode. No, that's not your purpose. In fact, our tradition begins when the goal of all other traditions end. Really. All other traditions, what do they say? You have to be good, okay, and then what? You will get your reward, when? Because the neighbor is getting the promotions, I'm not. No, you have to wait till what is called afterlife. Afterlife, we will send you in a sonic jet to this place called heaven, and then you can have a seat directly in front of God, and you can just sit in what is called, starts with a B, beatitude. Yeah. So you can sit there and just admire God. This is the whole idea, and because you are with God, there's no chance of feeling sad. That is the whole idea. The whole idea of, even we have that, but that's not all we have. We have something more as well. So the whole idea of this, so-called freedom is always in the afterlife. You have to get out of this life. And why are you born? Is this life a detour or something, Like sometimes you go driving, you haven't driven that way, and then suddenly there is a construction sign and everything is closed. Oh, but my favorite cafe is right on the other side. Detour. Go this way, that way, and you're not familiar, so you end up somewhere else, This is how it is. So is human life a detour? Human life should have a purpose, not just so that one is born to die to have an afterlife. If afterlife is the purpose of human life, then why is there life? You should go from afterlife to afterlife, Then you won't call it afterlife. After, that's all. You see, you will be just going from after to after. So if you are sitting happily in heaven, then why are you here? So this is why I say that the vision of this tradition begins where all the other religions, including the Hindu Dharma, how it is, the first portion of the Veda comes to an end, really. Because our first half of the Veda is also about all, everyone packing their bags to go sit in heaven. That's all it's about. All the time you are packing things. Oh, did I forget a sock? Okay, here it is. Oh, what will I eat on the way? Here, some peanuts. Oh, I forgot. What my favorite teddy bear. Okay, stuff that also in the suitcase, zip it up. Everyone is packing to go to heaven. This is very funny. But the vision of this tradition, the vision that comes out of this tradition is universal. It is no longer, we are not talking of religion any longer. Because this is beyond do's and don'ts, beyond the commandments, beyond any kinds of behavioral, what's the word for it? Behavioral injunctions and prohibitions. We are talking of a fact that is already there, that needs to be discovered. And that fact is, heaven is right here, right now. And heaven appears in the form of you, your own nature, your own, swarupa. That is what is to be attained. That is what is to be attained in terms of knowledge, to be understood, to be assimilated. Attained is within quotes because it is already attained. It has to be discovered, it has to be understood, it has to be assimilated. So this being the case, then the human life acquires a different dimension. Now the journey is just centered on I. The problem is me, the solution is me. And therefore, and so why does the psychology come into the picture? Psychology comes into the picture, you know why? Primarily because this is the place where the holding patterns are that keep one from seeing the truth of oneself, one's own psychological profile. Oh, I have a psychological profile, a psychological mugshot, nothing to feel bad about, because everybody has that. Sarvesham buddhau ragadveshau vyavasthitau. Ow. Yeah. In every buddhi, in every mind, there is a psychological profile in terms of strong preferences. So nothing to feel bad. But it is coming in the way. What is it coming in the way of? It is coming in my way of recognizing the truth of myself. Because as long as this psychological profile, has a mainstay in my heart, it's going to, what's the word for it? Flip the vision into something else. Even if I read a book, or even if I go and sit in front of a teacher who says what? You are the whole. What do I do? When the teacher is saying that? Yeah, this is what happens. Sometimes sleep comes just before Mahavakya. Yeah. Mahavakya means when the climax is of this whole, the culmination of this whole thing. You are that which you seek to be. You are that which is called Ishvara, God. You are not different from that. And everybody is cheering inside. And did I miss anything? No. So, so this is why the psychological profile has to be addressed. You can say sleep comes because I'm sleep deprived. Okay, that's fine. That's the physical reason. Sleep comes because, so many things, I'm not well, whatever. Okay. But there's also a psychological reason for the sleep. And what is that? Strong preferences that inhibit the assimilation of the knowledge. You don't want the knowledge to be a chewing gum. Chewing gum? Yeah. You put that little stick inside, and then in the beginning it's all sweet, 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 sweet. and you chew it a few times on this side, you transfer it to that side of the jaw, and you chew it a few times there, and then you transfer it, and then what has happened now? All the juices are gone. Pooh, you spit it out. Correct? Yeah. You don't want the knowledge to be like that. You want the knowledge to be like kheer, like this wonderful thing that is made. And then you eat it, you savor it, and then it leaves a wonderful aftertaste, and then you have a happy belly. That is how the knowledge has to be completely assimilated. You have to soak in the knowledge till the raga dveshas become a prune. That's what it is. You soak in the knowledge. You have to soak in this teaching. Because once in a while, if you get this, it's not enough. It's a committed and a dedicated exposure to this teaching for a length of time that will set this psychology right. Plus also helping oneself to override this psychology, because the psychology has various components. One we have already talked about, that it's penchant with smallness. We talked about long before. Just to reiterate this is a very big problem with this. Everyone has already come to the conclusion, I am small. And what does the psychological profile here do? With each person differently. That smallness is brought about differently. One person said to me that I have a lot of negative thoughts. I said, what negative thoughts? What's the meaning of that? What are you trying to say? No, because I'm always constructing scenarios where somebody is saying something mean to me. Their words. Somebody is saying something mean to me. Somebody is taking me and throwing me out of a party or a room, literally catching me by the scruff of the collar and throwing me out because they don't want me there. I said, has this ever happened? No. What about in childhood? That I don't know. But this is the kinds of thoughts that keep coming. Why do these thoughts keep coming? Because already the mind has made up the psychology. The psychological profile here has made up its mind, has influenced the mind, has eclipsed the mind to think that one doesn't belong anywhere. That's why these thrown out metaphors. One is not included. This is a huge thing for people. Oh my God, this is like a big, it's a big thing. I'm not included, because this is all the childhood impressions, whether in this life or other lives. Strong childhood impressions, if you ask any parent who have more than one child, which child do you like the most? What will they say? Huh?
I love all my children.
I love all of them equally, but then they will have their favorites, naturally, they may. And the children are very sensitive, they sense that. And even if supposing they are not having their favorites, even if they are, not culpable in this situation, supposing, the mother just happens to hand something, too of the candy to the younger one, because otherwise she knows that the younger one has been blessed with a very strong pair of lungs. So that's the only reason to hand two candy and just give one to the elder one. The elder one is quiet and she will understand, he will understand. The younger one has been born with bellows instead of lungs, and I want a quiet afternoon, so the mother just does this, just out of the exigencies of the situation. And then that also goes into the psychological profile of the child. Both in the younger and the elder. The younger one feels entitled. Of course I should get two. Why should you look at your face? Why do you deserve two? Who will give you even one? Give me that, in fact. So, and the older one will also have its own complexes. Nobody loves me. I'm not included. Mother likes this one more. Father likes this one more. Oh, woe is me. Poor me. The victim me. This is the psychology. Not feeling included, not doing this. and then they become the bricks, the foundation for new ragadveshas. Like for ragadvesha means strong preferences. Raga, strong preferences in the form of likes, dvesha, dislikes. And so here, this person who let us say is the older child in this example, grows up and then, has a particular psychological profile. I never go to parties. Why? Because the other person will have 2 appetizers. I will get only one. It's a complex coming from a long time ago. He's not able to let it go. I never go to parties. Oh, so and then there are wonderful words that you can pick off the dictionaries. I'm an introvert. Even that sounds bad actually these days. I have a better word. I'm a private person. Yeah. Permanent don't disturb sign on the front door. Like in hotels they have don't disturb. In the front door he puts don't disturb, no solicitors, no, don't come in. Yeah. You are not invited. All these things are put. Why? Because supposing somebody comes in and then, that old childhood issue which is so huge is triggered. I don't want this pain. So I circumvent the pain by running away, constantly on the run. This is the psychological profile. This is the psychological order. You see this is where God, this is God. This is a manifestation of God. This is a manifestation of Ishvara. That given this background, this person will have this particular kind of psychology, And that comes in the way of identifying with the greatness that, of oneself, with the glory that one is. This is what comes in the way. The knowledge doesn't take any time. How long does it take to say you are whole? Not even a second, a nanosecond. Yeah. Nanosecond is less than a millisecond. Yeah. Nanosecond. You are whole, you are free, you are wonderful, you are that presence which lights up the world. You are that presence unto which everything becomes evident, and you yourself are self-evident. Doesn't take long to say. So 9/10 of it is preparation. And this preparation is given from verse 31 to 38. That really speaking, the key to this preparation is having a sense of, your own purpose and being convinced about that purpose. And so many times people just keep going from one thing to another. And I have, met people like that. Whenever I meet some people, one person I know, what are you doing? I have a retail, what is that? Yeah, store, shop, where I sell things. Oh, wonderful. Next time I go to the same town. Oh, how is your shop? Oh, that's gone. What are you doing now? I'm doing belly dancing. Okay, that's nice. Are you having fun? Yes, I'm having a lot of fun. I've been invited by these clubs and I just go and dance and it's wonderful. Okay, third time, I go into town. What are you doing? No, I have taken up some card reading, tarot cards reading. The only tarot I knew was taro root, which we eat in India. But this is taro with a silent T at the end. So there you read the cards and you do all these things. Fine, nothing wrong. So I go and give readings at parties. And it's very lucrative because in parties everybody wants a reading. Oh, that's wonderful. And then fourth time I go, persons, what are you, how is the tarot cards? No, that I have given up. What are you doing now? Well, I'm in between. I'm just trying to see what there is to do. This is okay when one is in their teens and 20s, But after a while, one has to decide to something. Doesn't matter what. And that's what is going to be told in verse 39. We'll see that. One has to make a decision and say that for lack of evidence otherwise, this is what my purpose is. I don't have to choose my purpose all the time. It has been chosen for me because this is the job I have. this is the family I have, this is the, this is the house I have to take care of, this is the dog or the cat, this is my life, these are my colleagues, this is my employer, this is my employee. This is what one has to just, come to terms with. This is a sign of spiritual growth. Oh, that means I shouldn't change jobs? Change, but not as often as you change your clothes. That's the only thing. Because there is a little bit of a growth there. Yeah, change the job, no problem, And the people change all the time. I'm not saying that get stuck in an abusive relationship or get stuck in an abusive job. That's not what I'm saying. No point in having a long, sad sack face and going to work and coming back. What's the point, the jaw is dragging on the ground because the person is so sad every day. That's not the point. But, it's too easy to change sometimes. In the West, we err this way. We err to the side of just changing all the time. Because we feel we are in charge and we feel we can. Here, a very deep and profound wisdom from the ancient, times, from the Vedas, is being given to us. And what is that? Is that you are really not in charge of your life. At the most, you can choose between two brands of toothpaste. Yeah. With fluoride, without fluoride. That's all. And then you come back and see that, both are made by the same company. Yeah. This is all you can choose. That's where the choice ends. Really speaking, what is it that you choose? Where is your line of control, really? What are you controlling? And so to recognize that is a great way of stepping beyond the psychological, being stuck in the psychological profile of I want, I don't want, and this is unbearable to me, I want to run away from this, and I want to run towards something else. Because the running away signifies, a certain state of mind which is needing a little more emotional maturity. Sometimes the maturity comes by staying. Because, why do I feel like running away? Because it is unbearable. Why is it unbearable? Because I hate it. This is the American expression, I hate it. Even a 2-year-old uses. One 2-year-old came in the prasad line and they gave it banana. It put its hands in the bag. This is not even as big as a jalapeno pepper, it's just tiny little fellow. Puts his hand in the bag. And I said, what happened? Give me your hand. I hate banana. I said, you're not even as tall as a banana. And you hate banana. Can I have apple? Okay, have apple. It starts so small. It starts so small. And this is something universal, And this is something, this is exactly where Bhagavan Krishna says, tame these likes and dislikes before they start driving you crazy. Because drive you crazy they will. You be in the driver's seat. You don't allow them, the more you water them, meaning the more you allow them to grow, they will become a jungle. A disastrous jungle of entanglements that will not allow you to see Bhagavan as yourself, will not allow you to have darshan. This is what the whole problem is. Therefore, what you have to do is tame these likes and dislikes. You start taming them now by putting them on a diet. This is what, they are getting fat, they are overeating, they are over-nurtured. In the West, they are very fat, and ragadveshas. I'm not talking of people, I'm talking of ragadveshas. Ragadveshas have put on a lot of blubber, and even though it is not winter, you know what blubber is? Yeah, whales, they have that. And so they have put on a lot of blubber, even though it's not winter yet. And what are they doing? They are shrinking this person who is a mumukshu, a seeker of freedom, who is a jignasu, a seeker of knowledge, who is a bhakta, a seeker of Bhagavan, God, into one corner. stifling and strangling this person and taking over their lives. So the seeker is lost in this jungle of jungle of sorrow. Really, why is it a jungle of sorrow? Because the stronger the likes and dislikes, what happens? The greater the chance of unhappiness. Because you are never happy. The expectations rise to feverish heights, and then what? And those expectations that have risen to feverish heights can never be met. Can they? No? Can never be met. And this is what happens. You go to a restaurant, nothing is all right. Why? Because, I know that this restaurant has got some kind of stars in the review, correct? And so I expect that it should serve me this. And even if the waiter is 2 minutes late, and then, the person gets angry at the poor waiter bringing water. Why your name is waiter? I have been waiting. My name should be waiter. What are you doing to me? Gets angry. And we see this in the news. Now everything is public, because of NSA, thanks to Facebook and NSA. Everything is public. Now what is public? The family that did not leave a tip and instead wrote on the bill, "You are a horrible waiter." They wrote, "You're a horrid waiter." They wrote on the bill and left the bill there. And what did the waiter do? Post it on Facebook. And so this is what the whole thing is. And so this unhappy now there are many unhappy people, unhappy family who went to the restaurant, unhappy waiter, and outraged people who are reading this in the media, in the public media. Everybody is outraged. That this waiter, this struggling waiter is still waiting for the tip. This is what the whole thing is. The raga dveshas can take away the basic decency of the human being. Can make you into your own enemy. In fact, that is what is going to be told later. The basic human values and ethics that you yourself enshrine, you will completely violate because of the pressure of these strong preferences, because the strong preferences create a pressure to be fulfilled anyhow, anyway, but right now. That's what they need. So anyhow, I want it to be fulfilled. Anyhow means what? By any means necessary. Even if it means taking revenge. Somebody goes into the cafeteria and shoots and then, kills all the classmates. And this is what the whole thing is. By any means necessary. This is a very drastic situation. So, instead of trying to keep on manipulating the outer world into making it more like what I want it to be, I focus, according to the ancient wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, I focus on my inner world of raga dveshas. I put the pruning shears here, not outside. Yeah. This is where it has to be pruned, all the preferences. They keep growing. This is the pruning season. Everything has to be cut back repeatedly. Cut back. But how to cut back? By having this staying power to be able to bear things that I formerly thought were unbearable. By developing that muscle, that inner muscle power to bear with what I consider unbearable. This is the best gift you can give yourself this Diwali. Really. This is the best gift. It's really no other better gift than this exists. So I develop this staying power by doing what I'm supposed to do, not what I want to do. What I want to do is be outdoors, because even though rain was forecast, it is now nice outside. What I'm supposed to do is what? Be in class. Why? Because I have already made this commitment for myself. that I want to grow spiritually, that I want to make this effort. So just before coming to class, I think I'm just going to blow this off because you want class every time, every day something or the other is happening. And today I'm tired after Homa. So therefore I'm just going to do something else. No, I have committed to this. Because otherwise I'm violating my own commitment. You see, this is what happens with the raga dveshas allowed to proliferate. See, now the day is teasing you, the sun has come out even more. So this is the whole situation. This is where we have to exercise that staying power. I decided to do this. And I'm not some kind of a person who just decides like this. I thought about it and it seemed like a good idea and I've decided to commit myself to doing this. Therefore, I'm going to do this. Come what may. There is a certain growth in this staying power. Other examples of staying power, marriage, for example. As long as it's not abusive, there is something there. Because otherwise, why is the person a thorn in the side? All the time, waking up, going to sleep. Why this person's face I have to see? This is the feeling. Why is this person so boring? And why is this boring person living with me? That is the second question, the more important question. Let them be boring in someone else's life. And Bhagavan has a sense of humor. That's why Bhagavan doesn't have cable TV. Yeah, God doesn't have cable TV because every jiva, every person is a reality show. You can just switch channels. Yeah. This is what Vishnu and Lakshmi do all day. Let's look at this couple. The person, the man in the couple is like a stick in the mud. Does not want to even change. He hates change. Does not even want to go from one room to another in the house. That much he is, very much, a person of habit, a creature of habit. And the woman is always, buying tickets to go here, there, everywhere, wants to change the decor every day. Much to the chagrin of the person who is habit-oriented. That person comes back, goes to sit down, there is just the ground. The chairs are and the husband and wife have a fight over this. Correct? And both of them can say, they have a case. Each one can independently say, why should I live with this idiot? This idiot who does not respect me, who does not do anything. And why I have to live with this idiot? I want to just be on my way and I just want to have my house just like I want it without the chairs, playing musical chairs by themselves without the people. They are running around and everything is somewhere else. I can't find anything anytime. And why should I put up with this? That would be a valid, that's a valid thought. And the woman can also say, why should I live with this fellow, who is himself like a piece of furniture, immovable, obstinate, and, just like that. He may as well be part of the interior decor, I can just hang my hat on him. That's what he's as much use, because what is the use? But however, because, really we don't choose our partners, even though people think we do. Nobody chooses their partner, even though the person may have gone on Match.com and everything. It's all Bhagavan in the end, really. So really speaking, there is a certain growth in staying. Yeah, there is a certain growth. And that growth doesn't happen every day, doesn't happen all of a sudden. Happens through first there is a lot of groaning before there is growing. Yes. There's a lot of, what is this? Why this fellow? Again this fellow. Why? No, but why shouldn't I change? Change. See what happens. Many times what will happen is, the person who left the marriage and then went into another marriage will get the same kind of partner. The chances are just a different body. That's to make things a little more interesting. Yeah, this is why. Why? Because the karma of that has not finished. Karma here means the trajectory of that growth and what is there to bear and what is there to grow out of. that is not finished. Same thing, you leave the job and take up another job. Oh, this job is great. More money, fewer hours, I'm being paid more. Then what's the problem? Because the person is not smiling while saying this. What's the problem? Well, the boss. Well, you were complaining about the boss in the last job too. Yeah. Is it the same boss? No. That one was a man. This is a woman. But they may as well be the same. This is what it is. You can change the house, but you will get the same kind of neighbors. Really. Same kind of neighbors you will get. This has been tried and tested out. So that means that there is something here to learn. And when I shift this attitude, the attitude of wanting to run away to something much more comfortable and something I feel is out there for me, whether it's whatever it is, job, marriage, house, anything. And if I don't choose that, and when I just sit and see that the problem is not with the other person, here sometimes I can lose viewership, because when you say the problem is not with the other person, the mind shuts down. What do you mean? I'm at fault? Shanti. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you are at fault. There is no fault. The issue, according to this vision, the issue is with the I, not with the Jagat, the universe. The universe is as it is. It's crazy, it's lazy, it's how it is. It's, infinitely finite, and it will be how it is. But if the universe and the things and the people in it start to irk you, that is not, that irking is optional, really. If the universe and the people therein and the things therein are bothering you, it is not necessary for it to be so. The bothering, you can never clap with one hand. You have to have two hands. So if the universe is full of hooks, correct? Yeah. And then if I get hooked into these hooks, that means what? That I got baited, right? Yeah, I got baited. If I got baited, there was something in me responding to those various hooks. One time Pujya Swamiji was asked a question in a satsang by a teenager. And this teenager said, Swamiji, I have a lot of friends, but I can't trust any of them. All of them are, I'm getting screwed all the time. This is a teenager's language. I'm getting screwed. What should I do? This was a satsang question. Typical Western teenager. Made his way to Rishikesh, Maybe for other reasons than coming to the ashram. Accidentally came to the ashram. Yeah. What other reasons? If you go from Haridwar to Rishikesh, on both sides you will find the marijuana plants growing bigger than the bus that you are in. Yeah, freely on the road. This is a Westerner's paradise, And in India nobody bothers. So maybe that's why he had come, we don't know. Or maybe he wanted to go river rafting or trekking in the Himalayas. So many reasons teenagers get attracted to go there. But somehow nothing worked for him. This is Bhagavan. Very bright fellow. Nothing worked. What did not work? His friends with whom he was going trekking never climbed on the plane, never showed up. And that river rafting company had shut down after taking his money, after relieving him of his money. And, all these things. And then the friends wrote saying something, we just didn't feel like coming and there was something else happening, so we cancelled our tickets. So he was very angry at the friends. And he said, this is not the first time they have not been non-committal. I feel screwed. They have screwed me over. What should I do? And Swamiji had a wonderful response. He thought of, okay, screw. And screw means you put it, where the threads of the screw attach to the threads of wherever it is that is being. And he just said to his 18-year-old, lose the threads. Then you can't be screwed. Yeah, lose the threads. This is what verses 31 to 38 are. It's all about losing the threads so that the universe appears benign, not out to get me. Because it isn't out to get me, even though it may appear like that. And why does it appear like that? Because of my skewed way of looking at it. Because I'm looking at it through the lens of raga and dvesha. Somebody I recognize as suspicious is coming, immediately my hold over my possessions, my purse and whatever, handbag, wallet, whatever I'm carrying becomes more, because I think they are suspicious looking. They don't think they are suspicious looking, They may think you are suspicious looking. But this is how it is. Because of one's own preferences, one creates an alternative world, which is a very truncated, tiny, small, scared, suspicious world, which is the breeding ground for misery. This is how by doing what needs to be done and by developing the staying power, one overrides this ragadveshas, these preferences. And so verse 38 that we just chanted, if I can find it again, I have gone to 52, oh here it is, yeah. So here it is being told very clearly, sukha dukkhau, sukham cha, dukkham cha, sukha dukkhe here, because they are, it's neuter. Sukham cha, dukkham cha, sukha dukkhe, like phalam phale, same kritva. So the first thing in order is to get away from this habit of running after things that make me happy and running away from things that make me unhappy. Sukham means happiness, dukkham means difficulty, unhappiness. This is the human tendency, to run away from things that are uncomfortable, to run away from things that are even slightly, making the ragadveshas stand on end. I want to run away from that. And then what do I want to do? I want to go towards those situations which have this happy, come and let's hug feeling, safe feeling. This safe haven of always finding comfort, seeking comfort, is actually a disaster zone, because it makes one extremely sensitive to handle anything that comes. You're not able to handle even the slightest discomfort. Who is the loser? One is the loser. The one who is not able to handle this discomfort is the loser. So therefore, and then the tendency is to get ecstatic when something happy comes. Hit the ceiling. This is an expression. And after you hit the ceiling, what happens? Come down. Very unceremoniously come down and land with a big thud. This is what happens. So ecstasy, agony. Ecstasy, agony. One is a yo-yo of the circumstances of life. Ecstasy, agony. This is why, and no wonder one feels bipolar, because suddenly happy, this is what one feels. Suddenly happy. Oh, why are you so happy? No reason at all. I feel great. And then what? Oh, what happened? I don't know. This is what it is. This yo-yo is actually not a very nice situation. It's actually, bordering on insanity. This is what, if you see a person on the road suddenly laughing and crying, what will you say? Some developmental challenges are there, or some problem is there. This is what it is. The person who is not able to manage their emotions, and who lets their emotions manage them, or who is incapable of managing the emotions, therefore the emotions have a strong hold or rather a stranglehold on this person, that is the person who is, we say, is bordering on insane. This is what it is. So here this is a recipe for sanity, but nobody is insane, really speaking. Very few are actually insane. This is garden variety neurosis that Bhagavad Gita is dealing with, you know. And what is part of this neurosis? Part of this neurosis is flowing in the emotions, however they flow, that is how I go. Happy, sad, again happy, sad, in between angry, you know. This is how the life goes. Who is the one that is angry? Who is the one that is happy? Who is the one that is sad? What is the answer? I. If I am happy now and sad later and then happy again, then what is this I? Always subject to happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad? No. I is constant. Because when I say I am happy, actually I am saying, what am I saying? I am the observer of the emotion called happiness. I am sad, what am I? I am the observer of the emotion known as sorrow. I am angry. I am the observer of steam coming out of my ears. This is what this is what it is. The I always has to refer back not to the emotions, because the emotion is not I. If I is changeless, that is what was revealed in the first portion of this chapter. If the I is changeless, then that means that sorrow and sadness and happiness have nothing to do with the I. They just come and go. I watch them as clouds going by. This is what it says, Same Kritva. Make them even. How to make them even? You know, a promotion and a dressing down. How to make the two even? A promotion and a scolding, you know. How to say, yes, it's all wonderful. How to say that? That would be a lie. Because when I find that I have a promotion, I feel like jumping up and down, going to Vishnu sweets, buying sweets, you know. And then when I find that I am what? I am, got a demotion or got a scolding, then what happens? I feel like sitting in the room and crying. How to make them equal? And not only that, he says not just sukha dukkhe, labha and alabha. Labha, labhau, gain and loss, success and failure, in other words. Make them even. Tall order, right? Tall, easier said than done. How can success and failure, how to make it even? Failure means, everybody knows what that means. Success, I think I know what it is. Failure, everybody knows. How to make it even? There is a little remedy. There is a little upaya here. How to make it even? We learn first to manage the success and the happiness. Not the other way around. Learn to not get overboard with every success and every happiness. So that means, I'm like this. I'm a what? Stoic sadhu. So I have to be a stoic sadhu. You won the lottery. You have won the Oregon lottery. And you now have, $100 million. That's nice. And then what else? Your house was damaged in the cyclone. That's not the idea. It's managing. Managing means it's not about not showing expression, but not letting that ecstasy take you away from yourself. From yourself means what? From that safe place of the observer. Let the sakshi, the witness, have a pair of binoculars and observe the one that's jumping around like a monkey with happiness. Yeah. You sit in the place of the observer Observe the happiness. And of course you feel, if you see a child jumping around because it got some nice sweets to eat, you are of course happy for the child, on behalf of the child. And you are indulgently looking on, smiling at it when it jumps around. Correct? In the same way, the mother of the child also might be looking around, smiling at it when it has a tantrum in front of Toys R Us. I want to buy everything, I want to go home with everything. No, everything you keep back, you can have only one thing. No, I want to have the whole everything. And then what does the child do for effect? It throws itself on the ground and just hits the ground with its fists and toes, chokes over its tears and, refuses to breathe, all these things. And the parents look on and the parents say, all right, that's okay. The parents sometimes have to apologize to the passers-by, who are also very sympathetic, because who will be coming to Toys R Us? They all have these kinds of children. And the mother says, you are tired, you need sleep. No, I need toys, I don't need sleep. The child is convinced something else is the problem. No, you need to sleep. So the mother will pick up this tantrum child and just, smilingly carry it and put it in the car and take this child home. Correct? Yeah. This is the inner space. One has to mother the raga dveshas, which are really various forms of inner children. One has to mother these preferences. And so when something I get that I like, I don't go completely crazy. I observe from far. And yes, I'm happy. It's nice. When I manage that, when difficulties come, they also get easily managed. But if I flow away with the happiness, then I expect it at all times. You can be happy at all times. But what is wrong with this expectation is that you can't expect the Jagat, the world, to make you and keep you happy. You are already happy. That is what is to be discovered. And that cannot be discovered if I'm running after the happiness and getting completely waylaid by the sorrow. Similarly with success and failure. I learned to handle the successes in my life. And it's going to be told how. You dedicate it at the feet of the Lord. You don't own up the success. In India we never do that. Even if somebody says, oh, you cook well, you sing well, you dance well, you are such a good person, and the person will say immediately, God's grace, Guru's grace, the grace of the elders. You always put it to some other source other than yourself. That's a very safe haven. It's a safe place, because if you say it's all me, then that is a recipe for disaster. That is what happens. So therefore, you let this doership go by managing the sources of happiness and sorrow, success and failure. And then, when that has been done, even the greatest of battles can be won. That is the second line. Tato yuddhaya yujyasva na evam papam avapsyasi. Even in killing of people in a war, you will not get bad karma. You will not catch papa. You will not be afflicted by papa. Why? Because you are doing what needs to be done. And you are saying that I am in this situation. I signed up for the war. I became the commander-in-chief. I rose to the rank, of the commander-in-chief. And then suddenly, as soon as the war broke out, after the war broke out, I became a pacifist because I saw some people that I loved on the other side. This is hypocrisy. This is not pacifism. This is hypocrisy. Arjuna had 12 years, 13 years, if you count that one where he, spent teaching dance to the ladies in the palace. 13 years to mull over his choice whether to go for war or not. And all the time he was the most bloodthirsty. He was the one who was chomping at the bit. He wanted the war. And then what happened? Then he got the war, and then, seeing the elders on the other side, suddenly he said, I don't want to fight. Oh, isn't it wrong to kill? What were you doing all this time then? You should have let go before the kettle drums sounded, before all the conch shells, declared the war, everything. This is not the time to run away. And we also saw that Bhagavan told him what happens when he runs away. That, people will start calling him Sanskrit 4-letter words. Avachya. Avachya means that which Bhagavan cannot find in himself to repeat here. Avachya means that which cannot be uttered. Na vachya, avachya. Na vachana yogyaha, avachya. Vachana ayogyaha, not fit to be repeated. Avachya vadamscha bahun. Not just one, many choice terms they will have for you if you become a derelict and run from this war, because you are the head, and if the chief runs away, then the whole army will be in disarray, and they will all just, you will be known in history as that fellow that ran away. Not nice. So better, get over your dislike of this war. He is told, get over your dislike of this war. Why is he told that? Because all about the changelessness of the Atma, both his own and the people on the other side, it's just one Atma, one I-ness, which is never capable of being destroyed, washed over Arjuna like a buffalo standing in the rain. Nothing happened. Yeah. Had he gained the knowledge, he would have said, okay. He would have said what he says at the end of the 18th chapter. Nashto mohaha slutir labdha karishye vachanam tava. My delusion has been destroyed. I have recollected why I stood up for this war. I will do your bidding, because this is a war of the right versus the wrong. And these people are tyrannizing everybody, and they need to be taught a lesson. And I am not the doer, it is happening, and I find myself in these circumstances. I will accept the circumstances and do it. He should have said that then. But no. What impeded the assimilation of this knowledge? His raga dvesha, I don't want to fight. His raga, his dvesha, his strong dislike of the war. And then his strong raga for leaving the war and going into the orange safe haven. What is the orange safe haven? A default, lifestyle where he thought he could justify, where all doing is given up. And so he thought he could justify by getting himself into, an orange kurta pajama or what, dhoti, whatever. He thought he could go, and he could just go and sit under a tree in Rishikesh. And the Lord says, even the birds are going to come at you from above with a vengeance, because the news will spread that you are a derelict, you are a deserter, you are a rebel, you are a rabble-rouser without a cause. You left your whole army which depended upon you to fight the war by themselves without any direction, and you ran away. And you may try to alter your appearance. Usually, that's what happens. After you get sannyasa, this is what men do this, why don't women do this? It will be revealed shortly. Men will grow a beard, to look different. Now I am a sannyasi. This is why women don't do that. So, now I am a sadhu. So usually these, people will be shaving all the time. And suddenly after getting into the orange, bada beard, long beard. So Arjuna, you can sit and grow a beard under a tree and alter your appearance. But don't think they are not going to recognize you. You will hold out your bhiksha bowl, thinking that they are going to put some nice hot rotis and so that you can have your evening meal, or they'll give you some money so you can buy some, glucose biscuit from the next shop. These are all my own experiences. I've seen this. The sadhu came, I was buying something for cough. I went to a what is that, pharmacy in Rishikesh. And then, to my shock, the pharmacy was also run by a sadhu. Kya chahiye, he said. Mataji, kya chahiye? I said, oh my God. And then his helper was also a sadhu. He was up on a ladder dusting something. And then he brought down the cough syrup, whatever I wanted. And then this sadhu came running, and another one. And he presented his 1 rupee coin. And he said, biscuit, biscuit, biscuit. And that the sadhu who was running the shop, he said, hey, biscuits is 2 rupees, not 1 rupee. Give no, please give no, come on, don't make, look, I'm a sadhu, you're a sadhu. Give. All right, give him 2 biscuits, fine, But tomorrow, 2 rupees. Okay, all right. So, this is what. So, this fellow will think some money will come, so I can buy some Parle glucose biscuit from next shop, or some hot rotis will fall in my lap. But what people will say, thu in the bowl. Yeah, they will spit in your bowl, Arjuna, because you are a coward. They expected bravery of you. You were leading them, and you led them into disaster. You led them to their deaths, and those who don't die, those who didn't die somehow, who managed to run for their lives, will search for you. And this is what you will get. From being a hero, what will you become? You will just become, yeah, exactly. You will be a big zero. You will not have anything, that is what Laghavam means. Bhutva yasyasi. Laghavam, you will gain, contempt. Laghavam means smallness. Yeah, you will just pile on the smallness. Now you are famous, you will become infamous. So the only way out for you is to overpower your own dislike for the war. There is no other option. Then that's the only way you can fight this war. Don't tell yourself you are fighting this war. Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin, it is told in the 11th chapter. Meaning, be a conduit for what is happening. This is a very nice teaching. This is what is the beginning of the discussion called Karma Yoga. A very nice, teaching. Be a conduit, be a channel. Be like a flute. What is a flute? It's a bamboo, hollow and with holes in it. Holes means various problems and issues connected to the body, mind, sense complex. But in Krishna's hand, the flute becomes a very melodious instrument. So let that prana, which Bhagavan Krishna's prana, which powers the flute and morphs it into a wonderful melody, let that prana be your guide, and let that prana be your force, your own life force. So you just do what you have to do. Let the doership be with Krishna, you know that. This is what it is. And how to do what I have to do? By not getting too ecstatic when something happens which is in keeping with my likes, and not getting too disappointed. Learning to manage my ecstasy and my dejection, no matter what the universe throws at me in my life. This is how I can become like Arjuna, who ends up fighting the war. So I am like a bamboo that is hollow, and I allow the inspiration to be breathed into me, like even the breath of Lord Krishna. So the melody that comes from me, is it my melody? Yes or no? It is coming from me, but it is not my melody. This is how one has to lead the life. This is very beautiful, very, very sound advice, and it's the beginning of the discussion of a new topic called Karma Yoga. And we'll see the Bhashya a little bit quickly. And here it is. Sukha dukkhe same tulya kritva ragadvesha akritva iti etat. Yeah. So he says Sukha and Dukkha, means have equanimity. Sama means equanimity. Same, because two things are there. Sukha dukkhe same kritva. And Bhashyakara Adi Shankara, writing this commentary, reminds us that this is not about Sukha Dukkha, this is about Raga Dvesha. So, what to here? Sukha Dukkha, how to make it one and the same? By managing the Raga Dveshas. Raga Dveshau akritva, by not having them, he says. It's impossible not to have them, but that takes a long time. But you can say, I will suspend them for now. I will manage them for now. I will use my willpower to override them for now. That is what the idea is. Then, tatha labha labhau jaya jayau, gain and loss and success and failure, samau kritva. That he doesn't explain, it's the same thing. Tato yuddhaya yujyasva ghatasva. So make an attempt to fight the war from this standpoint, from this attitude. So the fighting is not important. Everybody is doing it. The attitude with which you go in, that is the preparation for this war. And so the attitude is one of managed ragadveshas, calmly managed ragadveshas. And then na evam yuddham kurvan papam avapsyasi iti esha upadeshah prasangikah, meaning prasangat agatah prasangikah. So this means it is prasangikah means contextual, meaning you will not get papa if you do this bad karma. This is contextual. Why? Because Arjuna's main fear was Guru Nahatva hi Mahanubhavan. It is much better to not to lead a life of arms rather than kill your elders and gurus in the battle, because killing your elders and gurus is going to give you papa, is going to give you bad karma. This was what his thing was. So in that context, Bhagavan is saying you will not get papa. Shoka moha apanayanaya laukiko nyayah swadharmam api chavekshya iti ityadhyaihi shlokaihi uktah natu tatparyena. Yeah, so what he says is that this, this swadharmam api chavekshya, which verse was that? Yeah, 31. From 31, this is what we had already talked about. We've already discussed this. This is just to see this. So, shoka moha apanayanaya. Apanayanaya means to remove. To remove the sorrow and delusion is the, what is the connection? One may say that, one may ask, what is the connection between managing the likes and dislikes, sorrow and joy, loss and gain, and then getting freedom from samsara, which is characterized by the removal of sorrow, fear and delusion? What is the connection? So he says, laukiko nyayah, meaning the worldly advice on the level of the transactional level, on the level of Yavahara is being given to Arjuna. How to see that you are free of sorrow and you are free of delusion, that is a fruit of the knowledge. But here he is being told to manage the likes and dislikes. What is the connection? There is a connection, because this is at this level of transactions in the world. And that is at the level where everything is all one. So to understand that I am one with everything, Sarvatma, I am one with everything, there is nothing other than me. To understand that the raga and dveshas have to be managed. So on this level, prasangika means the contextual advice, and here he says laukiko nyayah, the worldly advice, iti adyaihi shlokaihi uktah. So therefore, this is what was given from verse 31 to 38, and it has nothing to do, it is not really an extension of the knowledge of the Atma. This is knowledge of human psychology. This is not knowledge of Atma. And we discussed this before. How is the knowledge of human psychology connected to the knowledge of Atma? Because human psychological barriers, the various psychological profiles that we discussed at the beginning of this lecture, can come in the way of assimilating this knowledge. So I have to inquire, interrogate, and dismantle these profiles before I can understand the truth of myself. So this is advice, more a lifestyle kind of advice given at this level, rather than the knowledge of the Atma. This is what is being talked about. Natu tatparyena, and then what? Paramartha darshanam tu iha prakritam tat cha uktam upasamharati eshate abhihita sankhye. So from verse 11 onwards up till 31, that was what was called Paramartha Darshana, means the expose, the exposition of that knowledge. What knowledge? The knowledge of one's swarupa, one's nature. The exposition of that knowledge that frees from shoka, sorrow, and moha. What is moha? Delusion. That was given here, and then he says, now the next verse is upasamharati. Bhagavan is going to conclude, and why is he going to conclude in this way? Iti shastra vishaya vibhaga pradarsanaya. So there are two distinct portions of this teaching. The one is the vision, and the second is a lifestyle that is conducive to leading this vision. So the lifestyle that is conducive to leading this vision is what is being discussed now, is going to be discussed now. And so how is the lifestyle connected to the vision? Because the lifestyle helps me to prepare to internalize this vision when it is given to me. So the lifestyle and the vision are connected like the goal and the means. So the vision is the goal and the lifestyle becomes the means. What kind of means? Auxiliary or the secondary means. We have to remember that. So if the goal is you, then what? The knowledge only needs to be there. The knowledge is the primary means. The teaching of the Gita and Upanishads, that is the primary means. The secondary means is what? Is this lifestyle. Auxiliary, helping means. So it is an indirect means. So the lifestyle helps me to prepare my antahkarana, my inner infrastructure for this teaching. And then only because when the mind is prepared, then only this teaching will fructify, will bear fruit. So this is what he says, that that right here where the two things have been already forming. So the first, what did we saw? Akledyoham ayam adahyoyam, achedyaha, meaning it cannot be burnt. What cannot be burnt? Atma. Yeah. Adahyohayam. It cannot be drowned. It cannot be burnt. It cannot be cut into pieces. It is impartite. It is you. It is not an object to be coming under all these operations of destruction. It is not to be destroyed because it was never created. Only something that is created can be destroyed. It is that limitless you, whichever was, whichever is, whichever will be, free of sorrow, always delighted, ananda, free of all kinds of strife. This is you. It was already told. And then he looked very blankly at Bhagavan. And still that resistance was there. So out of the kindness of his heart, the Lord also teaches how to prepare for this knowledge. So then he comes down a notch and discusses the exigencies of the everyday life, the circumstances of Arjuna's everyday life. What is the life? He is here poised to fight, but he is not holding up his arrow. His arrow, Gandiva, is down on the floor, and then he is also removed the quiver. Why? Because he himself is quivering, at the thought of the war, and then he doesn't need another quiver. Already his body is a big quiver. It's quivering a lot, and then he instead of standing in the chariot, he is sitting down in the chariot. And so all this seeing this, Bhagavan knew that there is this resistance. But he also knows he is a Vaidika, so he says, there is growth for you in doing what you are supposed to do, not what you like to do always. And here is where your growth is. And this growth you need. That's why you cannot leave this world and go don orange robes and sit under a tree. Yeah. Because you will carry this unfinished battle in your head. The battleground, Kurukshetra, will be here. And all those people, Bhishma, Drona, all the baddies will be here. Here, inside will be a battleground. Things will be fighting happening because you have not resolved this issue. You can run away, but wherever you go, there you are, correct? Yeah. You can't run away from yourself. So this is why he holds him back, brings him back with a leash. And the leash, the name of the leash, it's a long, wonderful leash. Hare Rama is written on it. It is called Karma Yoga. This leash is not for the person, for the raga and the dveshas. You put them on leash like taking twin doggies for a walk. Hare Rama on one leash, Hare Krishna on the other. So this is how it is. It is disciplining the virulent likes and dislikes that run my life and drive me crazy. So I discipline it with a leash of Karma Yoga. So we will see what this leash is like. It's wonderful. Yeah. It's a very nice leash, and we will see next time more in detail what this is all about. Since only few minutes are left, I'm going to end early. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Any questions are there? Yes.
Speaking of this growth, this staying power, people say you just need to be motivated. And all maybe it's trapped in my mind thinking, well, where do I get that motivation? Where does that come from?
Yeah.
And
sometimes you have to be motivated to stay.
Yeah.
Direct the motivation to stay. There's nothing wrong with it. You see, it's a wrong understanding sometimes, not yours, but the people who say this, that if I stay in one place, that means I'm not motivated. What is the connection? Motivation means what? What are you achieving? Let's say you're not staying, you're jumping around in circles. What are you achieving? What's happened? What have you done? What have you achieved? Really, what have you achieved? So therefore, this is what the whole thing we have to remember is, really speaking, even when one is supposedly motivated, one is not really achieving anything. One is just approaching and avoiding things and going around in circles. Yeah. If people hear this, they'll feel bad. But it's the truth. It really is the truth. And to think that I am the one who's achieving something, that itself is a big myth. Myth means mithya in our language. Yeah, really, it's a big myth. And so therefore, this is what, you must have been an Indian in your last life, because this is the question usually Indians ask me. They say that, all right, we will have staying power, we will overcome our, disabilities in the form of raga and dveshas. We will overpower them. And then what? There will be no progress. Because if everyone gets moksha, what will happen? Oh my God, everyone will be sitting in their rooms, just in their own glory, nothing to do, nowhere to go, and who will cook, who will clean, who will, what about scientific progress? What progress? Look at the state of the world. Where, every day you look in the paper, it's horrific. You cannot look at the news without, seeing how many people have been killed by how many others. It's all gory. It's a permanent Kurukshetra the world has become. What progress? Is this progress? And 2-year-olds are addicted to the internet. Is this progress? And then 5-year-olds are addicted to something else, sweet things and whatnot and everything. Is this progress? This is not progress. What progress are we talking about? No, all these things. No, this means moksha is not understood. Moksha is freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from shoka and moha. Not freedom from progress. Freedom from do worship, not freedom from doing. If you have freedom from do worship, you can do a lot more. Look at Bhagavan Krishna. He didn't just say, I'm an enlightened being, I came to the world that way. No. First thing he did was bother his mother by eating mud. That was the first doing, Yeah. And he had fun. And then, he did all kinds of things. At age 8, they looked for him, he was missing. Where did he go? Where did he go? Here, Ma. And he's in the middle of the river, standing on the 8 hooded serpent's head, Kaliya, and dancing on it. And the thing is just huffing and puffing and saying, what kind am I in an aerobics class? What is happening? Because that snake was swallowing up all the children in the village. And cows and everything. Was harming the people. So that was, taming that fellow was he did that. Then he did so many things. You see the story of Krishna. How can one person do so much? Because there is no do worship. I am the doer is not there. The disappointment is not there. That fear is not there. There is so much freedom to do. In fact, if the whole world had moksha, we would be having more progress. In fact, the people with moksha they don't lack motivation. They just bow down to a larger truth that they are not really the doer. That is what is the beauty of it. Very good question. I'm glad you asked it. Any other question?
You're talking about the wife and what she's thinking about. I swear you've been living at my house. I don't know. I'm just seriously, just add this in my head in the last couple of days. Yeah, and having the fit, feeling sorry for myself. And, and it's just before the classes start up again. It's kind of funny. And, so then for me, feels more like, so I feel like we reach this sort of impasse almost. And then I wonder, how long can I endure an impasse? Or,
It's not an impasse. You outgrow the marriage gracefully. That's
so
what it is.
To still live within the confines of that relationship, and then it seems one-sided too. I'm coming to class, my husband's not coming to class. He's doing his own thing. He's happiest when I come to class. Yeah, see, he's a smart man. He's like, she's not home bugging me. But, no, that's not why he's happy. That's what he said. No. Why he's happy is because he sees a happy Lottie. That's why he's happy. Anyway, but it is awkward in a relationship if you're not both kind of heading down that same... Yes. It's just a little awkward. I guess it's just a little more... it takes a little more patience, I guess. It takes a little more staying power. Yeah. But you be his acharya. You start teaching him slowly. Just through anecdotes, jokes. Yeah. That's what he's expecting of you. You see? And sometimes what happens is that the expectations are different. What you are expecting is him to be a companion along the way. You have other companions. Look around you. Dogs. Yeah. No, dogs don't attend class. I'm talking of class attending companions, okay? Yeah. So class attending companions are here, right here, with you. So you rely on them. You gain a lot of strength from looking at them. See them and say, okay, I'm not off. They are also coming to class. If they are off, it's okay, I'm also off. Correct? Yeah. But then you heal that expectation of him being that companion. That's what. Be able to trust him. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. You will be able to do that. I will pray for you. It will change. You wait and see. Let the second chapter finish. Okay. It will definitely change. Thank you. Yeah, I don't have faith in me. I have faith in this. Yeah. And my prayers. Bhagavan. It will change.
Any other questions, scenarios, situations? Was it okay for you? First time you're coming in the middle
Yes.
of this. Okay?
Yes, delightful.
Wonderful. Very nice. Welcome. Okay. I think it's Prasad time.